All right. Hello, everybody, and thank you for being here again. This is May 3rd, and happy to have everybody on. Have our speaker with us tonight. Jack is here to tell us a story, and I understand from Bob Walsh that this is going to be an excellent story. Jack says don't hold him to too high a standard, but we know that Bob has good taste, so we can't avoid but hold him to a high standard. I am going to start us off with the Pledge of Allegiance, if y'all will join me in that, and then Bill's going to take over with our invocation. So if y'all will join in, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Father, I just thank you for today. It's been a glorious day here. It's been a day of beauty, a day that you have made. I thank you that you didn't forget to wake any of us up this morning. And I thank you allowed us to live through the day in a way that hopefully brings honor and glory to you and good to our fellow man. I pray, Father, that tonight that you will bless Jack and give him the words that we need to hear so that we can be more about service and just being a blessing to those that we come in contact with. So bless our time together, I ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. So before I turn the floor over to Jack, just a couple of quick things. I want to share that I am excited. I'm very excited. Larry and I had the opportunity to go to the multi-district conference this last weekend. It was held in the Shoals, Muscle Shoals, Alabama, Florence, Alabama, home of the confusing Quad Cities, Tri-Cities, and a number of other things that they call it. And Rotary was given the weekend and the key to the city by multiple people. And we even had a proclamation from Governor Kay Ivey about it. So it was pretty cool. We got to see all three district governors. There were three districts involved in this. All three district governors, including our dearest Bruce McNeil, dressed in royal blue sequined jackets and snakeskin pants, singing and dancing on stage with some very fine musicians. I'm going to send out a short clip so you can, probably two of them, so you can see the things that they performed. It was pretty neat to be in a large group of people who are very like-minded. We learned a lot. And one of the things I'm excited about is I had the opportunity to talk to some people about the Passport Club, which, as y'all know, is very near and dear to my heart and to yours as well. Have some support that, I think that we don't talk about it enough. And I think going forward, one of the things that I want to charge each of you with this week as you watch this message and over the next couple of weeks before we come together again, we're kind of at a critical stage. The district is in full support of us. The other districts are very interested in what we're doing. So we're being watched with that as well. They're eager for us to get enough members to be chartered. So we need to go back to the old Rotary years. Each one bring one, I think was one of the things, or each one keep one. Anyway, there's, one of those old themes that's not so old. And I would ask that you talk about us, that you talk about what we have as an opportunity, that you share that we are non-standard. So those people who have scheduling conflicts can still meet in this fashion. And we are going to start working on some service projects. And we want each of you to be involved in every service project. This is what this club is about. So I need you to be involved. I need you to be engaged. And we have a great group, and I know that we can do some good things. But talk to people about us. Let them know that we're available. Let them know how to get into it. Give them my contact information if you want, and I'm happy to talk to anybody who wants to hear more about what our dues are like, what our process is going to be like, and it may change from this format. We heard last meeting from eClub 1 about the fact that they don't actually meet in this format. So there may be opportunities for us to change based on what we want, but I'm excited about it. Number of people expressed interest in this for members who are afraid to gather because of COVID, or just things have changed in their lives with kids, and we all know that we're overbooked. Share our message. Let's get more people involved. We need to hit 21 steady people before we can charter, and I think Rotary International is ready for us. And I think that once we charter, we will just see people coming in. I think as we continue to share, it's going to grow and grow and grow, because the opportunities that we have to bring Rotarians together. So outside of that, visioning is also coming up again. I am the district visioning chair right now and for the coming year. And that's all about planning for what your club is. So one of the things that I think we need to talk about is possibly visioning with our club. And we might do it in a kind of a non-standard format and just take a meeting and talk through what it is. But we also need visioning team members. So again, talk about us, talk about the things we can do. If anybody's interested in the visioning team, let me know, because I would like to have y'all involved in that as well. So all of the club business aside, I'm going to turn it over and, oh, there comes Munich. Great. I'm going to turn it over to Jack and let Jack tell us about himself and about his beanstalk. I'm sorry, wrong story. And about his story that he has to tell us. And looking forward to this. So Jack, take it away. Welcome, Munich. Glad to see you.
Hi.
Everybody, my name is Jack Jones. I am a 24-year-old living in Fairhope, Alabama. Originally from Virginia Beach, Virginia. Went to school at Washington Lee University. And I just want to say thanks for having me on and having the opportunity to share a little bit of a life story with you guys. It's my first time doing it on Zoom format, so this is a new experience for me. I hope it goes over as well as Bob Walsh has hyped me up to be. Thank you, Bob. Hope he hears this in the future. But yeah, if you'll stick with me, you know, I got a relatively short story here. It's not all cheery, but there's a good message behind it. And I think best format for this, since it's the 5 of us really on Zoom, is just once I get through with the story, I'll open it up. We'll talk a little bit about community, forgiveness, and building a better life. Those are kind of my 3 bullet points I want to get to. We'll just make it a little bit more conversational for that. You know, no need to do the whole raising hand. Ah, there's Bob.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks, Bob.
Let me see.
Thank you for hyping me up for this. They're expecting a great performance, so I hope to deliver.
Well, yeah, I told them that you were the best speaker we'd had in about 10 years.
No pressure. Well, without further ado, I guess I will get into my story. Here we go. So it is 4:45 on a Friday afternoon, and I'm sitting in my office on the 3rd floor of the Virginia Beach Municipal Center. It's my first payday. It's my summer internship of my sophomore year, and I am pumped. First payday. I'm listening to poppy EDM music for everybody in attendance. That is electronic dance music. Don't listen to it. You'd hate it. I already don't like it anymore. Grew past that a couple of years ago. So, you know, if you're looking for something new, go for it. I just turned 21, so, you know, living it up. And I'm thinking about a night out with my friends we had planned for my birthday. 2 of my coworkers walk past me, and I look up and smile. The first, her name was Lakita. She smiles back. She's got an amazing smile. The second was concealing a pistol fitted with a suppressor. Seconds pass as the 2 make their way down the hallway into Lakita's office. I hear what I can only rationalize as a nail gun driving a nail into something metal. Naturally, I stood up to investigate, and little did I know my life was about to change forever. I walked out of my office door and looked down the hallway towards Lakita's office. In the doorway stood the gunman, pistol drawn, pointed into her office. Another crack, and I turned towards the door behind me. As I burst through the door, I hear the sound of my boss yelling, "What the hell is going on out there?" followed by another volley of cracks. I sprint down the next corridor, yelling, run, and catch up with others fleeing the 3rd floor via the stairwell. I'm in a state of total panic, and we descend the staircase, pushing through the front doors, running into the parking lot, jumping into my car, and speeding across the street at 90 miles an hour towards the gas station, kitty corner from my office. This is where I jump out of my car, promptly accost a woman who is pumping gas and ask her if she has a cell phone. After convincing her that I am not mugging her, I let her know that I had left mine on my desk and relay what had just transpired inside of the office behind us. She dialed 911 for me and gave me the phone. As the line rings, cop cars fly past, helicopters approach in the sky, and SWAT sniper teams can be seen running and rushing into position in the parking lot. 911 dispatch, what is your emergency? Active shooter at the Municipal Center, 3rd floor. Officers are en route. What is your location? The Shell station across the street. Stay put, an officer will be sent to your location. Others begin arriving at the gas station. I ask the woman if I can make another call, and she nods as I dial my mother. No answer. I dial my father. No answer. I leave him a message. He still has it. It's kind of comical looking back on it. Goes something like, hey dad, some crazy shit happened at work today. Don't worry, I'm okay. Give me a call back when you get this. I'll call you again soon. At this point, a few people I ran out with across the street were also taking shelter at the gas station. The woman who had lent me her cell phone went inside, and she and the clerk came out with a couple of Coca-Colas. The clerk, who must have been about my age at the time, 21, handed me one and said, hey, this is on the house, man. Remember his smile to that day when he handed me that. I cracked the can, drank it, and then proceeded to vomit on the sidewalk. One of my coworkers asked me if I was okay, to which I responded, I think. Are you? He said, yeah. I think we're coming out of shock. A medical term right there. I asked him what his name was and if he had contacted his family. He said his name was Ken, that he had just called his wife. It felt like forever, but soon enough, that officer who had been promised by the 911 dispatch arrived, came over and said, hey, we got him. You're safe. Please come with me. We then walked back towards the Municipal Center, towards our office that we had recently fled. Fire trucks, ambulances, and squad cars littered the area. Ken grabbed my hand and began praying as we entered the courthouse, which was across the street from my office, all within one big municipal complex. That was when I saw Ashley, who had been in the office next to mine. She was a close co-worker of mine. I keep in contact with her to this day. She saw me and cried as we embraced. She had hidden under her desk and told me that of the 5 of us who were in our corridor when the shooting began, only she and I had made it out. We were ushered into a courtroom where a pair of SWAT officers introduced themselves. They told us anyone who didn't see the gunman could follow a few of the normal police officers back out to their cars. They'd be escorted home. And anybody who had seen the gun or the gunman should remain in the court. We were ushered into another courtroom where a pair of SWAT officers introduced themselves. That left about 30 of us of a group of probably 300 who had been working there earlier. We were instructed not to talk about our stories so as not to cross-contaminate each other's memories of the event before debriefing. The first SWAT officer began taking interviews one by one in the adjacent room, while the second stayed behind. The remaining officer said in a calm voice, if you need a hug, I'm here. If you need to hit somebody, I'm here. Whatever you guys need, I'm here. Time passes. First, the women were interviewed, then the men. Time passes again, and a cop brings in about 15 pizzas. To this day, I have an affinity for Domino's pizza. It is, it touches my soul every time I have it, and it was available in my college town as well. So shout out Domino's Pizza for being there when things were bad. Eventually, I was interviewed and then released around 11 p.m. It's now raining as I walk back to my car, which I have left horribly parked in the gas station parking lot, which I had previously mentioned. I walk back to the gas station where I find the attendant wiping down the seat of my car. Apparently, I'd left the window down, all the hurry and the commotion earlier. And he said, I thank him. He said, I figure you would want to come back to a dry car seat. He had no idea I was coming. I'm just some random guy. But he took it upon himself to make sure that I had a dry ride home. I open the door, get in the car, and drive the 20 minutes that feels like hours back to my house. The door swings open and my family swarms me. My mother hugs me and cries. My father stands behind her, and my two younger siblings grab at me from either side. That's the end of May 31st, 2019 for me. And this story, this presentation is dedicated to Mary Lou, Lakita, Alex, Crystal, David, Jennifer, Shannon, and Ashley. So that's a little bit of background on me and kind of why I've chosen to go forward as maybe a motivational speaker, if you will, sharing my story and hopefully giving some insight into what it's like to go through something like that and how it applies to everybody else in your own lives and how you can hopefully better yourself through just some real simple practices. So if you guys want, we can go on and start talking. The real point of my speech is not to dwell on the past, but to think about how you can use it to motivate your future, building community, practicing forgiveness, and everything that goes into building a better life. Those are 3 things I'd like to talk with you guys about. I've a couple quick stories on each of those, and we can open this up to discussion. So if I'm rambling or whatever, just give me the wave and we can switch to a more conversational tone. Let's start with community. So obviously this was a pretty traumatic experience, shook my world, shook the world of a lot of people around me. It was national news for a little while, it's local news for much longer. And what I really want to emphasize in this is the power of community and how Rotary, being a community building organization, can do better, do good and really impact the lives of people who have, gone through some hard things. In the wake of this tragedy, one thing that cracks me up to this day is I'm driving back to work about a week later. They had asked us if you want to come in, you can come in. If you don't, take your time. And I'm driving back to work and I'm passing a bunch of, restaurants, Chick-fil-A's and everything. They all got signs up. But the first one I see, first one in the biggest letters with people actually standing outside holding the signs, was Hooters. Hooters had gotten all of their employees to stand on the sidewalk because they knew this was the road to the municipal center. It's about a quarter mile from where we worked. And they were waving signs saying, "We love you, we support you, be strong." Very, very kind-hearted thing to do. I honestly tear up about it. It's only funny because it's Hooters. But my point in bringing this up is there is no gesture that is too small. That can really change someone's day or change somebody's trajectory that they're on. I was struggling a lot going back to work. I thought it was something important that I'd stand up and return. Don't let the bad guy win here. But it didn't make that drive to work any easier. And passing by these restaurants all saying, "We support you," was instrumental in my healing process and how I could eventually bounce back from this. So my point in bringing that up is there's no act that is too small. Just like the guy wiping down my seat, and I count that as a big act. But the gas station attendant who waited till end of his shift, made sure that I had a dry ride home. There's a reason why I still remember that, and I kind of choke up talking about it. There's nothing that's too small. That's a good act. You put good into the world, and it replicates. So other communities that I tapped into during this period, I was in college at the time at Washington and Lee. I had college professors. Just for reference for everybody listening, Washington and Lee is a school of about 2,000 undergrad students, very small, in rural Virginia. Everybody knows everybody a bit too well, honestly. So as I had mentioned in my story, I left my phone in that building, and the FBI actually had it for about a month. It was evidence. So I didn't have a phone for a while. Eventually, Verizon sent me a replacement, which they completely comped, by the way. It didn't charge me anything. So I guess shout out to Verizon on that one. But when I get it, my phone's exploding. It's like thousands and thousands of missed messages. And it's hard not to go back to this memory and think of all the people who expressed just in a little text, like, hey, man, I love you. Or I'm here for you, call if you need. It's, they're almost impersonal in the way that they're sent, because that could be sent to anybody. It doesn't need to be to me after a tragedy. It could be to one of your friends on a random Tuesday night, just because you kind of have the impression that maybe they need it, or maybe they don't. It's my point in bringing that up, I guess, is there's never a bad time to check in on your friends and on your loved ones. Make sure that they know that you're there for them, and most of the time they do, but every once in a while it's a good reminder. So that was another community that I felt particularly I could lean upon, and even without me leaning, they were there to support. So I appreciate the Washington and Lee community, my professors who reached out, who I had, maybe I had for one class or something. They somehow through the news or something had figured out, connected the dots, and they had my email. So no small deed goes unnoticed. And the more good you put in the world, the more good you'll feel. The more good there is. So that's kind of my spiel on community. I think you guys as Rotary members pretty much get that inherently. Don't know if we need any more elaboration on that. I'm probably preaching to the choir. So let's talk about forgiveness, because that one was particularly difficult for me. I'm going to take this quickly to plug therapy and medication. This is probably more of a plug that needs to go out to my generation and younger people, but in general, I think it's a good message. There's no weakness in seeking help. In fact, I think there's a lot of strength in admitting that maybe you can't handle this, or maybe you're not the best equipped. Not handle isn't the right word, but best equipped to deal with the situations that have been thrown in front of you. And a professional, a third party, someone who is not vested in your life for anything other than making you better, is a great indisposable asset. And I cannot thank mine enough. Meet with them to this day twice a month. At this point, it's mostly talking about girls, but yeah, so that might get a laugh. But it's that's stressful too, and there's no problem that's too small either. Just like there's no good deed that goes unnoticed that's too small. There's nothing that isn't worth, that's weighing on your mind, bringing up with someone who you can trust and get a just objective opinion on, because it's real strange. And I've noticed this, the more I talk going back on this experience, the more your mind plays tricks on you, and it's a difficult thing to really put into words. But it's a lot easier when you have somebody else who can look at it objectively. So that's my plug for therapy, and for, having good friends. So moving on to forgiveness. I'm sure you guys have heard this before, but spite and revenge, it's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It doesn't work, but something in us innately wants, blood for blood, eye for an eye. It's human nature. Nothing wrong with feeling that way, but you gotta think about how this is going to benefit you in the long run versus how it's going to affect other people. For me, the biggest thing was trying to gain peace. I went from not being able to leave my house directly after this, to pretty much living a fairly normal life here in Fairhope, Alabama. I'd say I'm living the good life, honestly. It's good weather, it's beautiful. But there's a journey to peace, and I think everybody is on that journey collectively, right? For me personally, the struggle was the media. I had a lot of qualms with. I felt that they were maybe sensationalizing the shooter a little bit. I felt his face was all over the news. His name was all over the news. Everybody knew him. Nobody knew Lakita. Nobody knew and the people who I loved, who I knew who had been killed. And that tore me up. But what I've learned and what I'm still learning to do, this is another part of this speech, but it's give yourself some grace. You're always on the same trajectory. You're learning. There's no end point. But what I've tried to gain from this, at least, is I can either hold on to this idea that I'm going to get even, or I'm going to in some way avenge my pain, and the pain of others, versus letting go. And what I've learned from letting go and trying to let go is, in doing so, maybe you're not forgiving. For me, I don't know if I'll ever be able to fully forgive the shooter. He's dead now. And I'm never going to have a conversation with him. He's not really, in my mind, a human, like a real person. I never really met him. I had actually held the door for him one day at work, and he had smiled at me. It's just normal kind of meaningless interaction. But because there's no opportunity to converse, and I doubt it'd be a meaningful one. If I'm being honest, it wouldn't be meaningful either way. Kind of rambling, but the point is, you're going to always have confrontation that you're up against, and sometimes the best solution for it is to allow the other person to go on their path, or whatever confrontation is coming your way, to roll right past you and roll off your shoulders best that you can. Much easier said than done, obviously. I think that's a huge part of maybe maturity, which is hilarious for me to be talking to you guys about. But that's, I guess, my message in that is, you'll do more harm to yourself antagonizing or agonizing over it, and trying to build up these stories in your head where, well, if only I had done this, or if only I had done that, maybe I could have made this difference. Give yourself a little grace. Forgive yourself for any missteps that you've made, and forgive others for any missteps they've made against you. And you'll live a happier, healthier life moving forward rather than looking backwards. That's my take on forgiveness. Finally, we can talk about building a better life. This one's kind of fun for me. So I've recently moved to Alabama. This is my first first job out of college, first house, first mortgage, first dog on my own, first yard to take care of that I need to get mow the grass on, all that. Yeah. And what I'm trying to do here and trying to learn is primarily thinking about what gives me peace. So this circles back to, forgiveness and community. Well, what are the things that when everything's turning in motion, when all the gears click and when everything's going right, what are the things that I want to do with my life? For me, I love fishing. It's a huge passion of mine. I like walking my dog. That's a great escape for me of just calm, peaceful movement. It's like it's almost out of body. It's just not happening. And then the third one I'd say right now, at least, and these all change given on the month, is I enjoy working out. I think it's a good exercise and something that I'm not very good at. If you guys could see me here, I'm like 160 pounds, like pretty scrawny guy. So that one's more of my challenge to myself. So I think in building a better life, you both have to push yourself to grow, but also you have to find your things. Like for me, it's fishing, where it's like, I'm going to sit on my butt and just enjoy some peace and things that make me happy. The ways that I've gone through, and I'm almost directly quoting my therapist on this, is the questions you ask yourself is, what gives you peace? What are your goals that you have for yourself and for your family? Because honestly, at a certain point, it's not just about you anymore. I'm lucky I'm 24. I can go through this experience pretty selfishly, thinking about, okay, what gives me peace? Going out and fishing. And that's a luxury most people don't have all the time to have. And then building your team. This is honestly something more I've learned from the working world. It's all about the people you put in your corner, and the ways in which you interact with other people in your immediate sphere of influence. Talking about that, it might be the people you work with. It's definitely your family. One of my favorite comedians, Bill Burr, does this skit about looking around at his family and going, okay, it's my team. It's what I got. So, we may not be all the A team, but work with the pieces you got in your corner. Build them up, interact with the people who will build you up. And when you get the chance, I don't think there's anything more meaningful and just good generating than seeing somebody who is in this sphere on your team having a rough time and being the person for them to lean on. So maybe that circles back to community. Maybe that's a selfish thing in myself of saying, I like being the guy who helps. But the more you can build people up around you, the more they'll build you up. That's really all I got off the top for you guys. But if we have any questions, we can go to that. I'm happy to open this up to conversation.
I don't think I'd end it with "that's all I got," because that was a lot.
It's a ramble every time.
No, it's a pretty incredible story. I think Bob was spot on. It's an amazing story. It's an amazing story of resilience.
I appreciate
that. And I'm glad that you shared it. I have a ton of questions that are kind of not all forming right. And I'll let Bill or Munich or Bob or Larry might actually speak. I don't know. Start off if anybody has anything.
One of the things I was thinking, Jack, is that you have been given a platform that you wouldn't have chosen, but the message that you have can be developed even more, so that I really believe that you're going to have more and more opportunities to share your message, and it will actually become a ministry of people who have dealt with trauma or might know someone that has. And there's probably some things that we need to talk about. One of them would be you taking me fishing, so I can enjoy the piece.
Anytime.
And then also just some things that I want to encourage you with.
Yeah. I think the one of the points you made there, what came to my mind was the American Red Cross coming to I didn't tell this story earlier, but the American Red Cross sends trauma specialists. They'll call you after an event like this. I think they got a hold of my mom first, and they called her and was like, you guys can come to us, or we'll come to you. And I think that they're kind of the inspiration for most of these conversations that I have, and trying to share some of the lessons that they gave to me on recovery and overcoming some adversity in this. I guess the point in saying that is I stole most of my speech from them, but also,
But you
I
had the
think there's
experience.
a lot of value in sharing it.
You're the one that had the experience, and you were hit with trauma and also grief simultaneously. And there's probably another thing or two that has not been uncovered yet, but I'll use anything at my disposal for my good or somebody else's. So the fact that you've got a lot of what you're sharing from another source, that doesn't bother me at all, because the fact that you're using what they gave you, that is what is going to be your platform, because you experienced it. And people are in a lot of different situations are going to experience a level of trauma that causes them to experience the very things that you were able to experience as it relates to community and forgiveness, and also looking for peace and finding it in the right place. So the fact that you had to deal with this so young, if God gives you a long life, you've got a long time to be able to share a message that probably needs to be a global message instead of a local message. And there are ways for that to happen.
Sure.
Yeah.
I love that, and that you brought up that there's always more to come. There's always more to uncover. One of the things I've been trying to learn more about is how this has tangentially affected other aspects of my life. One thing I'm diving pretty deep into right now is how it's affected my family life and my dating life, which are pretty unrelated to this whole event, right? Like, you wouldn't immediately be like, boom, boom, connect the dots. But, and I think with everybody's, because everybody gets through something, right? There's no easy life. It affects everybody differently. So the more you can kind of look within, and accept that this is a lifelong journey of learning, the more you'll be able to glean from those maybe negative experiences, but ultimately, maybe they're triumphs when you look back at them years later of overcoming. So I appreciate that you brought up the idea that this isn't a static point in time, but rather a journey of constantly uncovering more and more about yourself.
How much guilt are you carrying that you lived and others didn't?
Could you say that again?
How much guilt are you carrying because you lived and others didn't?
Yeah. I mean, that's a good question. So I as much as I try not to hold that with me, it'll keep me up at night every once in a while. I have a memory. Paint this for you guys a little bit more than my story did. The gunman and Lakita, who's my direct coworker, are walking side by side past my office. We're on a little T-shaped hallway. Her office is at the end here, and mine is down here. Imagine this hand is the hallway. And he looks in at me, we make eye contact. At this point, he's already killed 2 people in the parking lot. Makes eye contact. I smile, thinking nothing's wrong. And he just kind of walks past me. And I'm thinking like, okay, he's a dick. Didn't realize how big of a dick, but like, yeah, right. So that's a moment that kind of replays for me of being like, he had every opportunity in that moment to go, okay, you're next, but he didn't. I've done some counseling on survivor's guilt. It's a serious thing in these sorts of cases, and I know a lot of my buddies in the military can relate to that on another kind of topic. I'm from Virginia Beach. Biggest naval base in the world is Norfolk, which is a block away. So that's kind of one of the conversations I enjoy having, particularly with military people who, there's a lot more on the line in those situations, and people come out, even if you come out unscathed physically, you might not be mentally, and you need to allow yourself. And maybe this goes back to my peace conversation about giving yourself grace. I've definitely had the thought, this maybe directly after, I don't think this is much of, what could I have done different? I've gamed it out in my head before. I've been like, I could have gotten him with my stapler. No, you wouldn't have. You'd be dead too. So
I think you disarmed him with your smile, but that's something different. And I appreciate your honesty with that.
Yeah, and honestly, I've heard that. That's something. It's funny you say that, Bill, because my therapist said that same thing the first time I told her this story was, you're lucky you got a baby face. I'm 24 and I look about 16. And you're lucky that you're kind of an outgoing, smiley person just in your disposition, because I don't think he had it in him to just, or clearly he didn't, to say, you know what, that kid, shooting him. So I'm not going to pretend to understand the mind of a mass killer and of a man who is seriously, struggling and out of control. But I have heard that from a couple of people of just, maybe it was because you smiled at them. So that's it's one of those things I'll never have an answer to. And I've kind of made my peace with it at this point of saying, just thank God you didn't get shot. Thank God it didn't go down the other way. It might have been a coin flip, but you got lucky on it. So
clearly, Jack, I think the good Lord has other things planned for you to help. And Bill, he probably didn't tell you, but Bill is a minister, and because you guys should share some time together over Zoom or together on the phone. I'm sure he can help you a lot to begin to piece together the message that you have for your little ministry. And he's right, it is a ministry that you can take and set forth with, and no one can do that the way you can, believe it or not. And because you put yourself into that story, others do not, others cannot. Only you can share that. And if you just have impact on one other person's life, just one other person's life, your ministry is worth it.
I like, Bob, I'll take it a step further. I love what you say there about just one other person. I think one of the most important parts of this spiel I give is the community aspect. And I can't harp on this enough, but the gas station attendant who was just there for me at the worst hour, just when you're real done with everything, right? And what I'd like to echo in what you're saying here is, through Rotary, I think we impact a lot of people in a positive way. So I'd like to go on and, both in, I guess, given these talks, but also just throughout the work that we can all do as a community here, and bettering lives, even if it's just a little bit. Just every inch it counts in the game, and every penny counts.
And I want to say, going back to the commentary about the smile, because what you led off with was, there is no act that's too small. Every amount of good that you bring into this world is replicated. It's magnified. There's something that led that man to do what he did. And a lot of times we walk through the world and we might smile at somebody, or we might want to try to open that door to them, and they are unwelcoming in our eyes because they don't respond in kind, because they don't smile, because they don't speak and say hello. And the thing that's in our power that costs nothing to any of us, when we're talking about acts of service and acts of kindness go hand in hand. It doesn't have to be something that you pay to buy something for somebody. It doesn't have to be building something for somebody. Maybe it is building something for somebody. It can be the fact that you're building them up, that you are taking a moment to smile and share a connection and let them know that through that connection, they are not alone, or that they are welcomed somehow, some way that day, because you don't know what's going on in their lives. So that one act of kindness that comes naturally to you, very clearly, it comes naturally to you to be buoyant and upbeat and smile. And maybe it's harder for some of us to do that, especially to somebody you don't really know. That's maybe where it starts. And that's a lot of what you might be sharing in all of this message, is that there really is no act that's too small. And that might have saved your life. It might have saved somebody else that he came across shortly after that as well. It might not have been Lakita, but there may have been somebody else at the end of that hall who he was still connected to you and didn't pull the trigger at that moment.
And how many got up because you were telling them what was going on?
Yeah.
Oh, it depends on whatever news source you ask. All the big ones inflate those numbers. I ran out personally with a group of like 5 who were around a water cooler. We were all screaming and
Right.
banging on walls and stuff like that. So it's no idea. Can't quantify it. Not honestly, at least.
Jack, one
But
thing
what
you
did you
should not minimize is you told a story about the guy that wiped off your seat. Just think, as you tell this story in the future, you might have someone that says, I'll never be able to stop a fight, or never be able to do something huge. But you know what? It can incent them to do simple things like wipe the seat. And that is a big thing to you because you still remember it. And so
Oh yeah,
sometimes
it's been
encourage
years
people to
now.
do
We're
those
coming
things.
up on 3 years. That's one of the things that sticks with me the most was this guy. I'm coming back, I'm walking in the rain. It's obviously been a shit day. And he's sitting there, he goes, I just wanted to make sure that you had something that wasn't shitty today. Excuse my French here, but he's a gas station attendant. I'm quoting him.
That's a good element of your story that can encourage other people to do small things like that. And that's important because I don't think enough people do enough small things for other people. And you don't have to be a giant. You don't have to do huge things. Little things make a difference.
Yeah. I think that's honestly like, if I could drive home, there are 2 messages that I want to drive home. One is that you got to find peace within yourself. You got to forgive yourself for all of the little things you do. We're human. We do dumb stuff all the time. It's like part of being a person. So giving yourself a little bit of grace and accepting that this is not a perfect trajectory up, but it's rather a roller coaster that, eventually ends in a good place. That's one of them. And then the other is, there's nothing too small. There's no smile goes unnoticed. And I'll say to Carla, this was not something that was natural to me growing up, or even through like maybe the first couple of years of college. I was a kid who was like very much kind of in my own world. I was a good student, kind of a nerd, was like nose in a book, not a big member of the community. But there was this girl in college. Her name's Grace Ann. She's now working in Nigeria with a ministry. She's soon to be a doctor. She'll be a doctor within a couple of years, I guarantee it. But she's doing work over there. But what I gained from her, and she's, just in passing, was she smiled at everyone. She said hi to everyone. It was almost like a job to her of like being the and this is in a community of 2,000 students in the middle of nowhere, Lexington, Virginia, where there are more cows than there are people. She took it upon herself to be like, I'm the cheerleader for the school. I'm gonna make everybody like, hey. And she was also really good at names, which that's like taking it a step beyond what I'm capable of, because I personally am terrible with names off the top. But if you add that to your repertoire, you will really make someone's day. If you're like, hey, Carla, how you doing? It's like, oh, wow, you know my name, and you're saying hi to me, and you're smiling, and you're waving, like, boom. Like, they might have been on a downward trajectory for the day, but that small, costless, doesn't cost you a penny, makes you feel good, honestly. That little interaction can be so meaningful. So I don't know, learn a name and say hi to somebody. That's the point of my talk here.
Perfect message. Perfect
Yeah,
message.
But
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
do realize that she's living up to her name, right?
Who, Grace Ann?
Grace.
Yeah,
Yep.
she's got it in abundance.
Yeah, well, you
Enough to
might
spare.
want to look into that.
Yeah.
Well, Jack, I think Bill will tell you that forgiving yourself is probably one of the hardest thing every single person faces.
Mhm.
I would
Yep.
be shocked if that didn't come up in your line of work almost on a weekly basis.
That comes up in my life on a daily basis, and that I need God's forgiveness. The thing is that every now and then I bring stuff back up to him that he's already forgiven and forgotten.
Yeah. You
And
hold on
so-
to things way longer than you need to. It's human nature, I guess, but you gotta let that load off eventually.
Okay.
Awesome.
Do you have a boat, or do I need to rent one?
I do not. I've been in the rivers mostly. That's kind of my bread and butter, but I drove a boat in Virginia. And I know how to find spots up there. I hope it translates.
Hey, Jack, I'll take you surf fishing sometime.
Really? I'm always any day of the week outside of 9 to 5. I am down to go fishing.
I'm just learning how to surf fish so we can learn together.
Absolutely. Hey, one of the best things to do, man. Learn something new that's inherently not easy, especially with fishing.
But we'll talk tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
I'll see you there.
Well, we are drawing to the end of our hour together. And Jack, thank you so much. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing your story and uplifting all of us and everybody that you're touching, because I think you have such a powerful message. I think that just by sharing, you're helping all of us to understand and to see things differently. The text message, I don't send text messages to somebody who's gone through something because I feel like I'm just, I don't know, are you trying to touch and get into the middle of something? If I wasn't texting them for the 6 months before, why would I text them now? But the fact that it had an impact on you for all of these people to just message you, if I feel like I should do that, then I should do that. It could make a difference. So thank you for sharing, teaching me something, letting me look at it differently, and all of us, I think, and appreciate you being a part of this. And I hope that one of these days we'll all get together and we can all go fishing.
Absolutely. Yes, we can.
like it too.
Yeah.
So,
And Bob, thank you for introducing me to this group. Carla and Larry, thank you for hosting this and setting everything up. I had a wonderful time. Carla, to your point of I guess I haven't reached out in 6 months. It's one that came up in my personal life recently where I had a old friend who I'd kind of fallen out of touch with. And it's this weird question in your head of for me at least, it's, am I doing this to be because it's in vogue, or to get some sort of self-satisfying, I'm the good guy here? And the answer is that doesn't matter at all as long as you put out some positivity. It's hard because it's like Bill's probably familiar with. we're so ever critical of ourselves and every thought we have of double guessing ourselves and backtracking and should I not, what's morally correct here, like what's the social implications of it. My message to you on that is, yeah, just, hey, love you guys.
Just do it, Nike.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, on that note, we will end with our 4-way test, if y'all will join me in that, of the things we think, say, and do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? And we stand adjourned tonight. Jack, thank you again. Bob, thank you for bringing him to us. And Bill, thank you for everything you do for helping us get great people like this in as well. Munich, I'm glad to see you, and don't be so quiet.
Thanks
Been
for
a
having me,
long
guys.
day at the office, but I do want to thank Jack for sharing his story. It was,
Yes.
you are a blessing. Continue
Thank
to
you,
do
Haley.
what you are doing. It really touched my heart. So thank you so much for stepping out on faith and changing lives with this.
Oh, if I could quickly, I just want to share my screen for a second. I did this for all
Oh
of
yeah,
them.
absolutely. You were going to do that. Yeah.
I meant to do this at the beginning, but these were right here is Lakita. This Mary Lou, my
Beautiful
boss.
smile.
Yeah, right. She's got that smile. So these are the people who I dedicate this speech to. Yeah, it just wouldn't be complete without this picture. So I appreciate you guys having me on. I will let everybody roll, and thank you for having me.
Thanks,
Thank you
Jack.
so
You're
much.
awesome.
Thank you so much.
Y'all be
Take care.
safe.
Take care.
Awesome. Thank you. Take care.